There we go. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another great spotlight session. Unfortunately, today I am not feeling well, so I am at home currently. But we do have Joel here that's going to give us a really great presentation for mortgage and why we should all get our mortgage class and get started with our licenses, things like that. So I'll let Joel explain everything and take it away. Joel, thanks for doing this. I appreciate it.
No problem, Lawrence. Thanks for having me on today. Such a privilege. Hi, everybody. I hope you're all doing well. I hope you're driving safe if you're driving, and you're definitely paying attention. If for whatever reason you can't see the screen, today's topic is why you as a realtor should get your mortgage license. And, you know, I'm sure most of you on this call actually know, but I am very new to the business as of the beginning of the year. I came here in February to join Cornerstone, and just within about a month, Raj actually came to me and he said, you could get your mortgage license too, and you could be, dual licensed. And I said, really? And he goes, yeah. And then he goes, think about all the opportunities that exist. So when Lawrence gave me the opportunity today to present and talk about that, I was excited because it's definitely something that's very intriguing, and for a lot of different reasons. I've had the opportunity to work with several people now on the mortgage side. I got an official loan through the pipes now, so that's cooking along. And at the end of the day, a lot of opportunities have come up for the real estate side. So kind of just talking about that a little bit. At the end of the day, there's a really big opportunity, right? You as the realtor oftentimes will work with a client and then effectively package that deal and hope for the best when it comes to the mortgage side of the transaction. I know a lot of you already do business and work with everybody here, a visionary, but that's not an obligation of your buyer. And at the end of the day, if they're not with us, then you can't always necessarily have moment-to-moment updates and things of that nature. So, just really being, both the loan officer and the agent and having that opportunity and above and beyond being able to bring in some income, all really great things. You'll have more control over your transaction. So from start to finish, you'll be able to understand that. You'll be able to build a deeper client trust, right? So if you're able to talk about mortgages, understand different products that are being offered out there, understand circumstances that, come to fruition as a transaction is being created or being processed, all these different pieces now are in your control. They're in your realm. So think of how nice that becomes, not only money aside, but the fact that you're now being client centric and you're able to help them out a lot better and a lot easier. And bullet five should not be forgotten on here because that's the point of the conversation. It does create another stream of income. So the greatest part about this, and in fairness, there's a couple things to it, and I'll go over that. But really, education requirements, 24 hours. It's really not a huge commitment in the big grand scheme of things. There's a couple classes throughout the week. You work with Tony Durso, who's the actual education provider through CJREI, at least. And he's very, very good at explaining all sorts of different aspects of the mortgage industry. If you're a big fan of acronyms, super cool class to take. Through CJREI, depending on, what you have going, typical class, I think right now is actually 279. But the one thing I wanted to bring up is the fact that barrier to entry is relatively low. If you talk about the commitment of what is 24 hours of class time that you need to get approved through, there's definitely, and I highly recommend some studying. And I actually have a study guide that I'm going to show you that I personally used. It helped me quite a bit. The idea that the class costs $279, you have to get fingerprinted and you have to pay for the exam. You're about $400, maybe $500 at the most. But the idea is that when you really consider the value of what you're able to now not only provide for your customers, gain for yourself, and ultimately bring into the company here, at 2230, 206, all these things start to line up. And, really, I know everybody's busy, but if you just could set aside 24 hours, and there are some self-study aspects to it all, just like the real estate course that we had, um, it's really not that long. So really what you do, you get in there, you do the 24 hours. There's, between 1 and 2, I would highly recommend doing a little bit of studying. Full disclosure, I didn't pass my first test. It was a little bit tricky. I went in it a little bit, probably brazen, cocky, however you want to kind of talk about it. Um, and felt 2 points shy of actually passing. So that was like a really major blow. Like I would have actually been happier if I was like 20 or 30 points off, because then at least I didn't know anything. This was just a matter of probably rereading a question the right way or the wrong way. Um, but you complete your education, you do a little bit of studying, you pass your exam. 24 hours, you could get fingerprinted, super easy. You apply for your license, which probably, just as far as state regulations go and things of that nature, is the longest part of the process. But once you're through the class, you're in the mix. And even if you're starting to begin transactions on the real estate side, you can already begin to talk to your clients about different aspects of this, and potentially start getting your very first clients the day you pass, as somebody that you could help with a mortgage as well. Um, and, I'm sure everybody here would, gladly like to have another loan officer in the building and bringing income into Visionary Mortgage specifically. But if that wasn't your gig and you wanted to do something else, you're actually licensed nationally. So assuming that you get a state certification for your local area, you could really go anywhere in the country. Some people that I've talked to in the past have not only their MLO license for New Jersey, but they have it for like Hawaii and Alaska and Florida. And it takes effort to continue and keep those licenses and things of that nature. But now, talk about being able to service a broad range of clientele. It really does start to begin to pick up. So even if you get a client that says, "Hey, I know you're a realtor, but I'm actually looking to move to Florida," you could potentially help them sell their house here in New Jersey. They can move to Florida, and you could help originate a loan for them now in Florida. So there's a lot of opportunity that comes about. So this is the basic steps to it. Um, some of the myths that are really important to kind of talk about. First and foremost, it's fact. You can be a realtor and you could be a licensed mortgage loan originator, and all you really have to do is properly disclose that. And in the short summary of it all, it's really a matter of just saying, "Hey, I have these licenses. You're not required to use me, but if you'd like to, I'm willing to help you." And that's the general sense of it. So you're definitely allowed to do it. And really, the biggest other caveat is just making sure that you clearly disclose that, if you're talking about some of the idea of mortgage and mortgage rates and et cetera, that, you're disclosing the fact that you have your license, and you make sure that you keep those rules clear. Um, so just broadly, from most people's, past, and there's a whole lot of different products that exist out there, right? So I'm not going to get into the boring details, but as an MLO, you could come in, you could do conventional loans, um, you know, people with good credit, relatively straightforward as far as, the process is concerned, getting them approved, getting them, a mortgage, getting them through the pipes. You're able to offer FHA loans, so first-time home buyers, potentially, opportunities to help all sorts of different people out with, even if they have a little bit lower credit score. You can help people that have served the country. So you can do VA loans, which is a kind of cool thing. And there's a lot of different benefits that you receive as a veteran. And I personally have never served, but I do respect greatly and immensely all those who have served and have given their efforts towards it. And what a great thing to be able to give back to somebody who did that service for our country and help them out in that way. And, even ideas about understanding, down payment assistance programs and things of that nature. So there's a lot of different products that you're able to offer for all your different clients. And you're the one in charge of that. So you can help them out with all these different pieces. And there's well above and beyond these couple on the list here, but as a main focus. Um, so you can earn a couple bucks. So, obviously it ranges depending on, how much mortgage they're taking out, what kind of money you're, lending to them, et cetera. But I just erred on the lower side of a couple different things here. If you make a commission of 2,000 and you do just one loan per month, that's another 24,000 bucks a year, right? And that could very well just be working with the very clientele that you're bringing to the house, showing the house, putting together, so on and so forth. Now, I personally, and I'm sure again, some of you know this, I've been personally working more on the mortgage side than I have on the real estate side. But the reality is that there is a lot of opportunity here. And, even from the mortgage side of things, there's a lot of people that, maybe have a particular situation, whether it's high equity in the home, things of that nature. They come to you, they're looking for a mortgage, but they don't necessarily qualify, but you can potentially help them get out of their home and out of their situation. So it creates opportunity for you as a realtor as well. So, builds up a stronger pipeline, help with faster closings over the course of time, and gain a lot of extra income. So I think there's a lot of value there. And just kind of talking about it, not everybody's going to do this, right? Not everybody on this call is going to be like, "Ooh, Joel had a great talk. Let's go sign up for CJREI. It's going to be great." You have to want to do it, right? And if you feel comfortable talking to clients, you're able to explain different things. You're able to, have good communication skills, be able to make them feel comfortable, which typically speaking is going to be all the accolades and, attributes of a real estate agent already. Um, then you probably could do the mortgage side as well. So I think that's a really, important thing. Um, it does require a little bit of paperwork, but also, comes with kind of the crown with the thorns, so to speak, if you will. Um, so one thing that I could tell you personally, and this is something that really, really truly means a lot to me. Um, for me personally, here at Visionary, the opportunity to not only be dual licensed, but just knowing that similarly to the way, and I'll give it up to Lawrence because I see him every day hustling like that. The way Lawrence is willing to speak to you, talk to you, walk you through products, walk you through forms, be able to get you different information, the way WhatsApp is able to, get you answers, find you plumbers, find you cleaners, find your roofing people, septic people, et cetera, so on and so forth. There is a lot of team support when it comes to the mortgage side as well. So, being able and feeling comfortable to ask questions and really understand, what it is that you need to do and how you need to go about it. It's all here. We have the title side. So Kara's here all the time. I see her every day. We have Devika and Rajani that are doing, a lot of the paperwork side for the mortgages as well. And for me personally, all the people that have joined Visionary prior to me, whether it's like Annie or Joe or especially Raj, have all been there to just answer different questions and be able to be a resource. And for all the information that there is, it's nice to know that you have a group of people behind you that are able to provide that support and be able to give you the answers that you're looking for in a very quick way. Um, you know, they also are very okay with you being dual licensed. So, when you're considering this, and if you're considering this, um, if you're looking for another way to make some income, I have really big ears, so I know people talk about it like sometimes like, oh, the market's a little bit trickier, or this or that, the other thing. This could create different opportunities and different paths for you with the support here, as a total sum. And it's something that, really works, and there's a lot of opportunity to do it. So that's, something that I always like to talk to. So just talking about it again, from the idea that, you could help first-time home buyers with financing and guidance, um, DSCR loans, something I didn't have necessarily on that list, but from an investor side, those are products that we offer. So being able to offer that to an investor who could potentially be, a multi-home buyer for you, being able to now provide the loan as well becomes a super valuable piece for that investor. And if you could be that person, that could potentially provide you, a substantial amount of income. Um, we work with the self-employed all the time, 1099s. It's okay. I mean, even, it's not just the owner of the company per se. I mean, you're talking, gig workers and things of that nature, Uber drivers, Lyft drivers, everybody still needs to live somewhere. That's the great part about this business, right? So being able to talk to, all sorts of different folks and all sorts of different walks of life and being able to assist them. There's, again, without getting into the weeds, there's different unique products that help, people that are going into foreclosure or potentially, have issues with late payments and things of that nature. So there's all sorts of different products. And if you could imagine, not just from the mortgage side, but as a realtor, being able to understand these different products as that client is talking to you or as you're trying to retain them or vice versa. But point being, moreover, is that as you're talking to all sorts of different people and all sorts of different walks of life, you don't necessarily have to be as concerned because you might be able to see a path to getting them the finance that they need to purchase their next home. So that opportunity now also opens up a lot of doors for you as a realtor where you might hear like, oh, I had a situation where I was late on a lot of bills and things of that nature. Your first initial thought might be like, well, they're never going to get approved and I'm not going to go show them any homes, or I'm not going to, this is not necessarily a client that I'm going to be able to help. You might initially get that in your head, but with the license and being able to have the understanding of what mortgages are able to do, you might be able to help them find a path that now creates a buyer, that now creates not only a commission on the sales side or the buy side of the home, but also creates an opportunity, as a total sum. And one thing I want to take one quick step back and just talk about a little bit is that it's not only the buyer, right? Typically a seller is going to need to go somewhere else. So now in theory, you can help somebody sell a home, help somebody buy a home, and you could help somebody finance their home. And you could potentially be that person for all three transactions. And you can imagine just from a referral source and an opportunity side that, that could be very lucrative for you as that person for them. So just keeping those strong client relationships. Um, Different ways that you could garner some of that, ability. Now you're able to promote that out on social media, that you're able to do that. You're able to talk about mortgage side. So now when people are looking you up, your level of understanding of the real estate industry and market and et cetera amps up because you stand out above and beyond a multitude of other agents that don't have this ability to offer both services. Um, so, even from a workshop side, like a first-time homebuyer side, not only can you talk to people about the, woes and ideas of being a first-time homebuyer, but you can also talk to them about the idea of, what it takes to become a homeowner from a financial perspective. And you can include that within your seminar. So now the opportunity and pool of people that you're able to talk to and gather and impress upon becomes larger. And obviously that makes you become, more valuable to your clientele and your customer base. So um, I know nobody's going to turn on their screen except Joe. He's going to keep his on, but um, one of the biggest things, and who in this room has actually said it, is the fact that, well, I just don't have time. Anybody?
Me all
Lawrence,
the
I see you.
time.
I was teasing you. Joe, I was seeing you. So I'm not sure who else maybe said it, but um, it's again, it's something that does take time, but it's also something that you could be doing in the off moments, the downtime, when you're waiting for a call, when you could be studying some of your information and preparing for your exam while you're waiting for the inspector to show up for, inspection, or the home appraiser, so that you could be there when you're waiting for somebody in your car. They do I got this one off of Amazon, 35 bucks, highly recommend it. You could be studying for this. There is a lot of time. There's plenty of downtime. There's tapes and recordings that you could be listening while you're driving an hour into the office today, Joe, that you could be listening to, that you could potentially get more insight, gain more knowledge. And when you go and take that test, you pass it, and now you have the opportunity to create a much greater revenue stream. So, the I don't have time is really more of a mental excuse than it is a literal excuse. There's time. There's ways of doing it. There's ways to work through it. There's ways around it. And the other part is, once you do it, as long as you do a couple CEs every year or two, you're in. It's not a whole, it's not a lot of continuing education, similar like the 12 hours a year. It's not gonna kill you. And even on the low side, if you're bringing in an extra $25,000 a year because you're just helping service the same clients that you would be selling a home or buying a home with or moving them along in the process, 12 hours, 25, 24 grand, one home a month that you help finance, that could potentially be, 2,000 bucks an hour. So, kind of weigh that out, right? I mean, there's a lot of benefit to this, and the other side of it is a lot of people get concerned with this as an overall because they think, it's primarily math and figuring out the numbers and the digits. There are entire underwriting teams. There are people putting, the numbers in order, making sure that the values of the loan stack up. This is truly still, in the big grand scheme of things, a people business, and people feeling comfortable with you and making sure that you're attentive to them and that you're understanding their needs, and you're gathering all the different pieces of information that you need to gather, and you're creating the entire sell process. But more often than not, are you trying to carry the one in the third decimal place and trying to figure out, on Tuesday, if there's a multiple of 6 or something like that. There's math involved, but calculators make it relatively easy. And the bigger part is it's still a customer service and a customer-based business. So that's something to kind of put into perspective. So I hope that makes sense for you all. So obviously I urge you today, go sign up. It's $279 to just get the class done. And worst case scenario, you go through the class and you need to go through it a second time, which this guy did actually, because I'm just weird like that. I need to see stuff visually, but it was, there's plenty of people that pass it on their first go round. So I'm just really not a really good test taker. But point being, moreover, sign up today, go start the classes. You get multiple amounts of months to study it and, understand it and get through it. You've been fingerprinted before because everybody on this call is already a realtor. So, you do have to do it again for the mortgage license specific. But that being said, that's not a huge hurdle. You study, you get sponsored, and then you start serving clients, as a realtor and as a mortgage loan originator. And, again, in my short tenure of being specifically in the business, a lot of people are amazed when I'm able to say, hey, look, I can help you, purchase the home, sell the home, or get you a mortgage. And they're like, you could do all of that? And I'm like, yeah, I'm happy to help. Let me know how I can help you. So it's a really great feeling to be able to say that to people too. So, I know I talked a lot. I didn't really take too many breaks. Hopefully, I got a little participation with a hand raise because that you don't have enough time. Um, but I figured, in the air of it all, if there were any questions or anything that you guys wanted to try to understand, please feel free to ask me.
This is awesome, Joel. I appreciate your time today.
No problem.
No, you did a great job. I do have a question. Um, what does so how with as realtors, there's a portion that goes to Keller Williams to the brokerage, and we cap, in a year. How does that work over there? Like, what portion of if you secure a loan, what portion goes to Visionary Mortgage? How does that work?
So I would, suggest that, you talk to Raj and things of that nature as far as all the cuts and everything. Um, but, at the end of the day, it's not a requirement to necessarily even come to Visionary to be a mortgage loan originator. So you could always shop that out and you could do different negotiations on your own scale. Um, I'm a big believer, and especially I'm sure a lot of you are, you could write your own paycheck one way or the other. So, but there is a cut to answer your question direct.
Okay, thanks.
Hey, Joel, I have a hi, Joel. How are you doing? This is Ruby.
Great. Hey, Ruby.
Okay, the question is about the training after the program. I, uh, I'm lazy. I took the course already. I'm just preparing to write the exam, and it's been a lot of months already. So, but yeah, it's math part is that, but I think it's pretty easy. It's just that you have to really get familiar with a lot. It's a lot, and they look same. That's why it's a little confusing, but same as real estate, nothing much difference. But the question after the license, how is the training here? Like how did you to get started?
So, again, there's a lot of support, whether it's, Raj or some of the other mortgage loan originators, or, like I had mentioned before, if you go through CJREI, you'll likely have Tony. He's
Mhm.
an excellent resource. I can't say that he literally picks up the phone all the time, but there's been plenty of times that I called him and it feels like I'm like on like a bat line, like he picks up immediately for me and is willing to talk it through. So there's a lot of different support. And, at the end of the day, it's one of those things where if you don't ask, you don't know, right? So it's you're in an environment where asking questions is seemingly, at least been my experience, has been one of those things where you shouldn't ever feel uncomfortable to ask anybody any question at any given time, and I mean, they're in the middle of a closing, maybe that's not a good time, but you get my point, is like,
Yes.
at the end of the day, if you don't understand something, or you're not grasping something, or you're not sure about something, there's a whole boatload of people in the office, around the office, that are willing and want to help, right? And that's been my experience personally, and I've seen it happen for others as well. And I feel like, it wouldn't be any different. It's just a matter of, wanting to try, wanting to understand, and wanting to do.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Hey Joel, if I may ask a question. So how's the where do you generate leads from? Is it coming from uh, this mortgage company, or you have to Visionary Mortgage, or you have to work on your own, like we do on the real estate side?
So it's a little bit of everything, at the end of the day. I mean, I had the opportunity when I first started, there was a couple extra lists, and, I've kind of sat in this one office that's very literally across from Deepak and Pinky. So I see them making cold calls and grinding on the phone all the time. And, if there's one level of success that you could try, and I also believe too, just from a different perspective, that cold calling is awesome because it helps you cut your teeth or get your experience, whatever kind of term you want to talk about with people. And you really have very little risk and it's all reward. So they ask you questions and you're not sure. I could find out that answer. You have no embarrassment level. You don't know them. If they don't ever want to talk to you again, you probably didn't miss a huge opportunity one way or the other. Not that you're trying to mess something up, but that's the beauty of cold calling. And then, networking, I think, is a huge piece as well. I mean, to the point where, as you're talking to your clientele, as you're gaining real estate customers, putting that all together, there definitely are some leads that come through, but at the end of the day, you should have probably the mentality that you have to generate your business, and whether it be just an overlap of clientele, or look, at the end of the day, if you talk to somebody and maybe they're moving down to South Jersey or something along those lines, or, out to Sussex, and you don't want to commute up there the whole time, but you recommend somebody, they're still in New Jersey. So it doesn't matter where in New Jersey, but you can help all these different people still with the mortgage side. You don't necessarily lose them as a client because you don't want to take an hour and 45-minute drive to show them, a dozen homes up in Sussex, New Jersey. Maybe that's your area, but I tease. So, that's also a benefit as well.
All right, thank you, Joel.
I have a question. Is this a national license or just a New Jersey license?
So yes and yes. With CJREI, specifically, you do 20 hours of the national. So you are nationally recognized as an MLO, but all states require a state-specific license as well. So it's a smaller portion. The 24 hours is broken up into 20 hours of national and 4 hours of state-specific. My understanding is New York is very particular with their license, so that might be a trickier one. But once you get through the 20 hours, you can go and take the state-specific aspect of it, and then go and test and go through the process as well. So it does get you the national aspect of it.
Hi, Joe. Thank you for the section. It was great. So I was wondering, are there any other course besides the classes you finished and after you get the license?
So that's a great question. I personally, I don't mind, I work on my laptop. I'm a pretty, minimalist type of person when it comes to technology and things of that nature. But to your point, there are all sorts of lender-based seminars that talk about all sorts of different products to continue to help you get like different understanding. I sat in one on VA. It was like a hour and 20-minute free seminar through a specific bank. And even though that bank is putting it on to promote their specific product, the understanding of what you need, as far as gathering information from the vet, understanding what their different requirements are, and so on and so forth. It's all stuff that's continuously put out to you and offered to you, and a lot of the banks are doing that again to promote their specific product and the use of their bank. But in the same breath, when they're talking about a VA loan or a USDA loan or an FHA loan or a conventional loan, and they're putting, all that context behind what ultimately they'll tell you, is fast funding and this and that and the other thing, as their disclaimer at the end, and, trying to gain your business as a lender and, an originator. All the meat and potatoes of the conversation still are pertinent to the things that you do every day, even if you don't use them specifically as a bank. So there's a lot of opportunity for continuing ed as you want it or don't want it. And the reason I brought up technology is because there's plenty of times where, it may be even a little bit redundant, but you know what? I listen to the same playlist like a dozen times. So, to put that on in the car and let that play over Bluetooth and listen to the whole conversation anyway, it never hurts, so it's really good from that side of things too.
Thank you.
Of course.
Joe, I have a question. I've always been thinking about it, and I'm like just worried about the time, how much it takes. And when you said that it does not take time, I can just read it wherever I am. What does that mean? It's like I can have it on my pace. It's no recording class, or it's just a book, or it's a course that I can take it. It's recorded course or something.
So there are the recorded courses, and it does have, from the perspective of, self-study and things of that nature, they do want you to sit for basically the time on screen with the course itself. But there's plenty of self-study, and, look, at the end of the day, if you miss a class or something like that, really the bigger risk I think that you have, Pinky, is the idea of, maybe not hearing it in the way or comprehending it in the way that it should be understood. And then you go and you take the test, and then you end up having to take it again because you didn't have a good understanding. So, being in the class, being present, being on those courses, I think is important. But, similar to, the way Jeff does it, they're rolling courses, there's recordings of courses so you can rewatch them and understand them. And, putting that all into perspective, it's one of those things that, you gotta get through 24 hours. It's not necessarily a whole lot of time in the reality of things. You get through it and you get done and you move on.
Okay, thank you.
I hope that it kind of answered it.
Any more questions, anyone? Joel, thanks a lot for doing this. I did want to give you guys just a quick schedule on what that looks like for the 20 hours. So it's Monday to Thursday, 6 p.m. to 9:30 p.m., 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. on Saturday, and 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. on Sunday. So basically you would go through this course in a 1 week, right? Where it's just 1 week of going through, the hours, and they're not that bad. You figure that you're going in, evening time, 6 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. So that's 3.5 hours during the week. 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. on Saturday. So that's going to be your longest day. And then 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. on Sunday. And then you're done with the course. That's
Yep.
pretty much it. And then after that, it's all about studying, preparing yourself for the state exam. So you have plenty of time. And not to mention, you also have 3 months worth of access to these courses and to Tony. So you can always reach out to Tony, and he's a really big help, and has been doing our mortgage classes ever since we got him started. Joe, you had a question?
Yeah, can these you pass your test on, can they be applied towards continuing ed for a real estate standpoint?
No,
No? Okay.
no. I thought that too, because I'm like, oh, this is a good idea to kill two birds, one stone. But they don't take it. It's not done that way.
Yeah.
Okay.
This
No problem.
this study guide that I just put up was awesome. It has I think there's 5 or 6 different tests. This helped me personally a lot, this specific study guide. I don't know if you guys are screenshotting or looking at it, or if you're considering, you could always ask me again later at a different time. But this personally worked very well. So there's a lot of different tests that you could have chat create and so on and so forth. In the back of this book, they, arrange a multitude of different tests that if you could just practice even on those, I think it becomes a really good thing. I took my background off because I didn't get to put this on, but if you all read this, oh, no, not that one. That's my fish I caught. Sorry. And I'll stop there. If you didn't get it, let me know. I'll text it to you later.
Can
The
you
point
read
being
that,
is,
Joe?
About to say,
What?
just read it out.
Can you read that? I cannot.
Oh, well, it's a little bit of a joke, because the first line, it says, I hate
I-
watermelons. You read that wrong. You read that wrong too. And this is how you fail exams. Because if you read the top line, it says, I hate water lemons. And then it says you that read wrong, and then it says you read that wrong too, and then it says this is how you fail final exams. So it was just a meme that came up as I was putting this together, and I meant to get it into the slides, but that would be one huge thing that I would definitely recommend, and especially with the exam itself on this particular one, like in my mind, the real estate course, and it's probably because Jeff is such a detail-oriented, excellent, teacher, trainer, etc., that it seemed like a breeze to me when I got through it. Thanks, Jeff. But moreover, the mortgage one had a lot of like double negatives and double, like you have to read the questions. And if you read the questions slowly and carefully and take your time to think about them and, do it in the process that, is always recommend, like eliminate the one that absolutely doesn't make sense and so on and so forth. It's really not overly, it's not a huge deal. It's something that if you prepare a little bit, maybe you get that study guide, maybe you sit on an extra class that you weren't completely clear about, or you have a couple follow-up questions. I'm happy to answer any questions that I can for you whenever. You're always welcome to call. But just make sure that would be my one piece of advice for this whole thing, is just make sure you sleep well, eat a good breakfast, take your time getting into that test, and take your time. Don't rush through it, because the $130, and maybe again, that's not a big deal, or it is a big deal one way or the other. But the point being, moreover, is that to sit through it again for a second time is not only like mental anguish, because you have, different thoughts and, so on and so forth rushing through your head. It's another extra couple hours that you got to take. If you could get it done the first time, I highly recommend that. Just take your time reading the questions.
Yeah, Joel. So this is in center, like real estate, you cannot take it online. Is that correct?
So they have the same kind of idea where you have to have your face on the screen and you could sit there and, you can't move, and they'll proctor it from a home perspective. But, going into the place was, much better. They give you the calculator, they give you scratch paper. You have a little bit of elbow room and breathing room. You don't have to be as uptight. You don't have to worry about internet service or losing, anything. So, and depending on where you are, I think for me, I ended up going to, it was Colonia, exit like 140 and change on the Parkway. So a little bit of a drive, but nothing out of control. And, great environment. You get to keep a bottle of water out there. You get to get up if you need to use the bathroom or anything like that. So I would personally recommend doing it in person.
Right. Odile, you had a question?
How long after the class do I have to take the exam?
I forget that answer, but I could get it for you.
I believe it's the same as real estate. It's 1 year.
Yeah, one thing I would like to clarify, they don't give an option for you to take the test from home anymore. They used to, but not anymore.
Oh, that might be more recent, because I felt like I had that option
When did you take the test, Joel?
5 months ago, 4 months ago.
Okay.
Okay.
But anyway, neither here nor there. I would still recommend you go in person either way.
Right.
Even if
Real
they do
quick,
open
I
back
did
up.
want to go over the upcoming class schedule with you guys. We have a class to start September 29th to October 5th, October 13th to October 19th, and November 3rd to November 10th. So classes are very, very pretty much regular. So you guys can sign up at any given time. Go to our website, cjrei.com, to learn more information about the classes, the courses, schedules, things of that nature. All good?
Joe, could you walk us through what you do in a typical transaction once you are ready to originate a loan or help someone?
Sure. So, broadly, and, there's probably a lot that I could talk about in more detail, but typically, starts off obviously with a phone call. or in-person meeting, but as my experience has been more phone call aspect. One thing I personally have found is that, taking the time to really understand the person's story, rhyme, reason, necessity, timing, time on job, income, things of that nature, all, really good pieces to understand. And, from that perspective, I personally always kind of been trained from the perspective, and this is maybe a different class altogether, but creating what is called an upfront contract, which is, having the person on the phone and letting them know right up front, like, hey, this conversation is not going to be, a 2-minute conversation. It could be, but it's probably not going to be. I also want to find out, several things that some of it might be, slightly personal to you. And, if that all makes sense at the end of the conversation, I'll send you out a link that'll allow you to fill out a completed, full application, a 1003 it's called. And beyond that, we're going to need 2 years of proof of income. We're going to need to pull credit. We're going to need to understand if they have enough money to ultimately pay. There's certain parameters that you have to fall in guidelines with, as far as total income versus amount spent on home alone. What other obligations are maybe in consideration. But typically it starts off with that conversation. My experience is usually about like 30 to 40 minutes worth of good conversation, really understanding their scenario. And then, to a certain extent, there's only so much you could do, because you're not the bank, right? So you can't make the final decision, but you could get a good understanding of where they are, what they have, what might be a good product, offering and suggesting maybe some different scenarios that may, from a macro perspective, based upon the conversation, fit. And then, what it does is it goes to processing. They'll take a look at it from a perspective of, really, making sure that, you do have enough income, you do have enough, the right home, the right place, so on and so forth. Everything kind of lines up. And then from there, you're able to offer, typically a pre-approval. And, that's a good start, but not completely guaranteed yet. And then once they have, the final home and so on and so forth, you're getting that all put together. You're getting loan estimates signed. And then, from there, you're getting, typically an appraisal, scheduled. And once all those pieces fall into place, then we get some paperwork signed and rock and roll.
So do you shop around for quotes, or how does that work?
Yep. Yeah.
Do you-
We're able to
so-
look at different banks and see, different products, what they're offering. Just like I'm sure you've seen, whether it's your email or solicitations of any kind, like some banks will be trying to fill a certain portfolio, and they might offer like, a 1/4 point reduction or a 1/2 point reduction for XYZ product, or, there's all sorts of different little nuances that are products coming out that they're offering, that banks are trying to compete against other banks to make their offer more appealing. So, always looking at those different pieces. Yep.
So you go through each bank separately?
I mean, it's more of, yeah, but you're not necessarily applying to every bank with the client.
Okay.
What you're doing is you're looking and you're saying, I have client fits these XYZ parameters, FHA loan. They're going to have less down, where's the best rate, program, APR, so on and so forth, that I can potentially send this client to with this credit score, with this amount of income, and it's the best value for them. Because at the end of the day, you're not going to get hurt by offering them the best value. It's making sure that they get the best value so that they could continue to refer you.
So is there something like an MLS for real estate? Do you have anything like that for mortgages, or through banks, where all the banks are listed and all their programs are listed?
Yeah, there's something similar. Yep.
Thank you.
Hey, Joe, quick question. How much will it cost to affiliate? with a mortgage broker?
I'm sorry, you broke up there a little, Ying. I couldn't hear that.
Oh, okay. How much will it cost to affiliate with a mortgage broker?
So it's a little bit different as a mortgage person. You're not a 1099, so there's different affiliation costs and things of that nature. But yeah, it's not, I don't know that I have a specific number for you.
Oh, it's not like a monthly charge, or it's not something like that. I don't know.
No.
Okay. Mm,
So I guess the question was, if I understood it correctly, we pay a monthly fee for being a realtor with Corners. Is there a similar fee for?
No. No, it's different. Like I said, the real estate side is as far as fees and being a part of the market center and things of that nature, different than the mortgage side. Mortgage side technically become, a W-2 and a sponsor that way, and then you're still doing, self driven sales and things of that nature, but it's not like a ongoing monthly participation cost.
thank you.
Cool. Everyone good so far? I think this was a really good session. Joel came with a lot of great information, gave us a lot of insight. Anyone else have anything else to add? Any questions, comments, concerns? No? All right, great. Well, Joel, I do appreciate you coming on today, being our spotlight guest. Fortunately, I wasn't in the office today, but I did see you when I was leaving, so that was great. Um, and yeah, thanks a lot, everyone, for coming on. I appreciate you all, and I hope you all have a great weekend.
Thank you
Thanks,
so
Joel.
much, guys. Have
Thank
a
you.
great weekend.
Thanks, Joel. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Can't wait till you guys are all selling loans with me.
Thank you.
Looking
Bye.
forward to it.
Yeah.
All right.
Bye, everybody.